We begin our report with Iran rejecting urgent pleas from European leaders not to attack Israel. Iran's supreme leader has said he intends to punish Israel in response to the killing of a Hamas official in Tehran last month. An attack from Iran or one of its proxies, including Hezbollah in Lebanon, could come with little to no warning. The leaders of France, Germany, and the UK released a joint statement Monday calling for Iran to refrain from any actions that would escalate the already tense situation. Iran's foreign ministry responded to that on Tuesday, saying, quote, such demands lack political logic and represent an excessive request. Earlier, a Pentagon spokesperson reaffirmed the United States' commitment to defending Israel.
No one wants to see escalation. No one wants to see a wider regional conflict. So, hopefully we don't find ourselves in a situation of having to employ those capabilities. But if we need to, in the defense of Israel, we will.
The Biden administration on Tuesday approved $18 billion in additional aircraft and weapon sales to Israel. Earlier, the president suggested the outcome of upcoming ceasefire talks could impact what Iran does next.
Do you have the understanding that Iran could cease or stop doing an action if a ceasefire deal was possible?
That's my expectation, but we'll see.
The White House has said if Iran follows through with the attack, it could happen as soon as this week. CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio has more from Tel Aviv. Ramy.
Jerika, good evening. Leaders and top officials not only of the United States but also the UK, Germany, France and even the Vatican are trying to talk Iran down from retaliating against Israel. But Tehran said that retribution is, quote, a right to stop even more Israeli aggression. The militant group Hezbollah, its proxy to the north in Lebanon, may time its own revenge with Iran's strike. Both blame Israel for the assassinations of top leaders 2 weeks ago. Israel admitted it killed Fuad Shukr, a top leader of Hezbollah and advisor to leader Hassan Nasrallah. Iran blames Israel for the killing of Ismail Haniyeh, the head of Hamas's political wing. If Iran and Hezbollah do attack, a former Israeli prime minister told us that the military would then launch counterattacks, which could then drag the whole region into all-out war, pulling in Mideast and Western countries. But ceasefire and hostage talks between Israel and Hamas set for this Thursday may be the event keeping retaliation on pause, at least for now. And Iran today, for its part, put down any speculation that it was part of the talks at all. But if those talks do succeed, that could bring the region back from the brink. But Jerika, if they fail, that could be the trigger for Iran and Hezbollah to strike Israel.
All right, Ramy Inocencio in Tel Aviv, thank you. Let's bring in retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Schwartz. He is a senior fellow at the RAND Corporation and served as the United States Security Coordinator for Israel and the Palestinian Authority. Thank you for joining us this evening. Reuters is reporting that 3 senior Iranian officials have said that the only way Iran does not retaliate against Israel is if there is an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Will that strategy work?
Well, obviously yet to be seen. I'm surprised Iran has not attacked already. Given the opportunity that they certainly had prior to the U.S. bringing all of its additional capabilities into the region, and how effective they were last time against the attack that took place in April. But what Iran's supreme leader has said, and the new president, that their response is going to be independent of the ongoing negotiations, that they felt compelled to respond to Israeli killing Haniyeh.
This sort of defies that idea. If that is the case, I mean, do you see that happening as a potential actual ceasefire that takes place, if that is in fact the case?
I think that there's still a lot of space between what Hamas would like to see happen and with respect to a ceasefire and what Prime Minister Netanyahu is willing to accept. In the event that the discussions that are going to take place on Thursday, if in fact Hamas has representation there and there's an agreement, there's obviously potential that Iran could stand down now and choose another time to their benefit to strike back against Israel. So
and Lieutenant Schwartz, just as you were saying that, I just got word from my producer that Hamas just announced that they will not participate in those talks on Thursday. So this, again, obviously, when there are talks that are supposed to be had to get to a resolution, and now they're backing out of it, it obviously intensifies the likelihood that something, as we've been reporting, could happen sooner than later.
It certainly does. It opens the door now. There's not that concern, even if Iran had that concern that they would potentially disrupt the talks. I mean, they've outwardly said that their response will be independent. So, that reporting certainly reinforces the likelihood, I believe, that a strike's going to take place in the coming days.
Israel has said that their objective is to eliminate Hamas, to bring the hostages home, but they haven't given details on perhaps the percentage of terrorists, the terrorist organization that are dead as a result of this war. Since the start of the war, as you know, nearly 40,000 people have been killed in Gaza, according to the Hamas Health Ministry. I know you're not someone that can see into the future, but obviously with your expertise, how do you think this ends?
Well, there has to be a political solution that brings the Palestinian Authority, despite their unpopularity in the West Bank and really their being unknown inside of Gaza, except for some of the senior Hamas leadership. They've got to play a part. And I think the frustration of why you saw General Gantz step away from the war cabinet and why you're seeing so much discourse that's occurring with Gallant inside of the war cabinet as the Minister of Defense, with the hardliners inside of the Netanyahu government, is there is no plan for the future of Gaza after the majority of Hamas militants are taken out, because they're not going to surrender. I don't think we've seen that pretty clear at this point. So, but I think a political solution that involves the Palestinian Authority is essential for any type of resolution that's going to be that's going to withstand the level of unnecessary, in many cases, innocent human loss of the Palestinians and certainly Israeli civilians, dating back to October 7th.
All right. Lieutenant General Mark Schwartz, thank you so much for helping us understand this crisis even more.